This is a podcast or something like that. Well, hello and welcome to the Verbal Journal Podcast. And this is episode 41. Sorry, let's take that again. Hello and welcome to the Verbal Journal God damn it. All right, let's take it from the top. Hello and welcome to the Verbal Journal that's not even... The majority of the letters were off on that one. Okay, well, we'll just have to skip that first line. Episode 41. Here we are. They said we'd never make it to 41. I know that we will, because we are. I am doing I was going to say not a morning episode, but we are back to the AMs rather than the PMs. It's, so this week I was going to not do a podcast because I'm trying to set up this interview, for a video for the main channel to do a very cool and important interview that I've been preparing for a while that I've mentioned, but, it's just taken a little time to set up. Some tech issues, some other stuff. We're just kind of arranging schedules, stuff like that. So it's no big deal. So I am doing a pod ep, and I am happy to be doing it. And then I'm just going to be chilling a little bit on Sunday, and then go to a little event later, see a few friends, maybe talk about art, stuff I like to do. And so, yeah, life's good. It's been a good weekend. It's Sunday now. It's Friday was cool. Saturday was cool. I did some art stuff over the weekend with friends, and then went to a party last night with some friends. That was very cool. Friend showed me a film they were working on. That was really cool. And then just hung out and chilled with some friends and friends of friends. I almost said extended friends, like extended family. Friends of friends, and just meeting some more cool folks, and got a week coming up. I've been working a fair bit with my job, with my social work, tons of meetings with clients, appointments with clients, always trying to do a good job, trying to get better and better. Been in this new office space now for 2 months. It's absolutely delightful, just very quiet and peaceful. I've been doing a lot of painting in my free time. That's been very enjoyable. This weekend, been doing lots of painting. Yesterday worked on some paintings that I hadn't touched in a month or two, or in a couple months. So it was nice to, work on those. And then, Friday, I worked on one that I had basically just sort of painted the background for it, not even... it was a frame that I got at a thrift shop, and I had covered up what was on the frame before. So painted on that glass, and then I was waiting to just actually start my own painting. So did that. That was really cool. I like how that's coming along. I'm enjoying this podcast. I know very few people listen to it. This podcast series, not the episode. I'm not going to say I'm enjoying the episode already. That would be a little soon. But I'm enjoying it. I like the Verbal Journal podcast. I know very few people listen to it. And that doesn't matter to me because that's been the case the whole time. That's how it was at the beginning. No one asked me to make a podcast. And so I don't particularly have high expectations. I do have lots to talk about today. I've saved a few things that made me want to talk about them on the VJP. And I also have a few... a few developments in the arc of artist biographies. We've been talking a lot about artist biographies, and there's some new info there that I'll be dropping. So it's just a teaser, and I'm going to take a sip of coffee. So everyone, just hang out for 5 seconds while I take a sip of coffee. Okay, that had not cooled down as much as I thought it would have. So it was a louder sip. If it hasn't cooled down a lot, that means you have to sort of... Oh man, that just reminded me of something funny from last night. My friend was showing me a joke trick or whatever that his friend taught him, and it was where you're pretending to drink something, but you never actually take any sips, so it never goes down. But yeah, because I was taking a sip of coffee, and the coffee was hotter than I expected, it made it louder as well. Louder sip, hotter coffee, louder sip. That's just one of those that's just nature. That's just how nature works. What else before we get into the agenda? Oh yeah, yesterday I finally posted to the YouTube page my position on the Palestine and Israel violence, and yeah, I mean, I guess I just reached a point where I was like, it feels really weird to not say where I stand on this to my YouTube audience, and it's a little bit arbitrary. It's a little bit like, why do I have to give my opinion to a bunch of strangers who like my videos? But I did sort of just come to the, sometimes you can't really even, sometimes it's not about the justification or the rationalization. It's just like, you just feel it, and it just feels like the right thing to do. So, yeah, I just wrote something up yesterday morning and posted it, and it's been good to see people's reactions and to make sure, everybody knows where I stand. It's like a little annoying because like I have to delete some comments. It's not like a ton of them, but if people post something, usually I would only delete comments on videos and stuff that are like personally attacking me, or I guess like really, really crossing a line of like abusive language or something. On this type of post and with community posts sometimes, but especially on something like this, my bar for deleting is much lower. I'm not necessarily hiding people from my channel unless they're extremely toxic, but my bar for deleting the comment is much lower because I don't want people in my audience to have to go to the comment section of that post as everyone, or as a lot of people do. I don't want people to have to read debates. I didn't post what I posted to stimulate a discussion. I'm not hosting a conversation space between different folks. That reminds me, I've been super delaying the fiction shit. I gotta post in the Discord about that. I feel bad. Hold on. 1 second. This is a live post in the Discord. Y'all, I've been so procrastinating, but we will set next week as the finish line to send our story links. Does that sound good? And then what I have to do is, hold on, go to my phone, which I force reset last week, and say, hold on, set reminder for Monday at 10 a.m.
Got it. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. What's the title?
Don't forget to finish fiction story this week.
Okay, I'll remind you tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Okay. So, great. Now you kind of get a peek behind the curtain here. Anyways, yeah, so I don't post about my position on Palestine, Israel to stimulate a conversation. I'm not interested. Like, I want to hear support, but I'm not interested in a debate. I'm not hosting a debate on my channel page. And it is a place for unqualified support or like very polite and respectful disagreement. Like, very. And because I don't care. I want people to be able to look at my community post and not be necessarily constantly reminded that everything is always being argued about. So, but yeah, good to post at, good to let people know where I stand. Also, being Jewish, I think it actually does do some good in the world to communicate my position. It's really, wait, what the hell was that? Oh, that was a different reminder I had to go off for now to do something I've already done. Yeah, it does do some good in the world for me to make it clear where I stand. I think I also, it's hard to like not get into the history and stuff, and like, but I didn't want to like, it's like you want to reference history, but you don't want to get all into specific details, and like, I'm not crafting an argument as much as I'm expressing my opinion, and I want to sort of reference history in somewhat broad strokes. So doing that, I think, is useful. I think some people could probably latch on to my language and it can help them in their own life to maybe explain their opinions. I also think, yeah, it does just help to really remind people, because some people don't know Jewish people. And so they might, hear, oh, yeah, Jewish people don't necessarily support Israel and their actions, but they might not fully understand where those lines are. And so that's good to be a Jewish person and make it clear. I don't necessarily need a homeland when there were other people living there. I forgot to even mention in the post that I've been to Israel. I guess it's not really relevant. When you search on YouTube, okay, now we're getting to the agenda. Oh yeah, I realized this week that when you search on YouTube, it doesn't just search through titles and descriptions anymore. It searches through the voice-to-text transcriptions of the videos. So if you search a term on YouTube search, it will not only bring up videos that have that term in their description and title, it will bring up videos that have that term in the video when someone says that term in the video, because the YouTube transcription AI is so good. So that's just really interesting to me. That's kind of amazing. That's really, really kind of amazing and kind of disconcerting. Like when I posted that community post about Palestine, I'm like, I wonder if there are people at YouTube who read every single post that mentions Palestine or Israel from an account over 10,000 subs or something. Probably not, right? Probably not. Okay. Next up on the agenda for the VJP today, VJPTD, is this was a funny story. So this is from ESPN. I like to share my ESPN news that I find interesting. Here's a ESPN article from the World Series, which just ended. Rangers won. And this is an article about Max Scherzer getting ready to pitch before Game 3 and his level of intensity. I like Max Scherzer. He's a great pitcher. But there's this really great anecdote here. I'm going to read the article. Okay, ready? Phoenix, sorry, I fucked up already. Phoenix. You know how they say where it's located? Phoenix, okay. Before Game 3 of the American League Championship Series, former President George W. Bush roamed around the Texas Rangers clubhouse, shaking hands and talking ball. After hobnobbing for a bit, Bush started to meander toward the locker of that day's starting pitcher. Max Scherzer sat in his chair, staring straight ahead, headphones covering his ears. 16 years into his Hall of Fame career, Scherzer's arm no longer produces the explosive pitches that won him 3 Cy Young Awards. His intensity, though, has suffered no such atrophy. If anything, it has grown to compensate for what he might lack physically. On the days that he starts, Scherzer does not exist as much as he smolders. Bush, who owned a piece of the Rangers before becoming president of the United States, understands the dynamics of a clubhouse and how to properly navigate it. Another player, outfielder Travis Jankowski, watched Bush begin to approach Scherzer and then pause. He goes up to him, Jankowski said, looks at him, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm going to pass on this one." He knows that's Max Scherzer about to pitch a playoff game. And then this was the last part I wanted to share. They have a quote from Max Scherzer saying, "Usually when you see George Bush, you stop and say hi. But I had my headphones on. I'm locked in. We'll say hi another time." We'll say hi some other time, he says. That's just funny to me to imagine George W. Bush walking up to Max Scherzer and then Max Scherzer not saying hi to him. Yeah, I thought that was going to be a bigger laugh moment. Fuck. Next up, I prefer football to basketball. That's an interesting thing I realized this past week. I much prefer watching football to watching basketball. It's really hard with baseball gone. I love baseball the best. But football has the slow pace of baseball. It has the strategy. It's just with basketball, you don't feel that you can look away in the same way. And I like to have sports on in the background. So it's nice with football. It feels like you can look away, look back. I mean, I don't like all the hitting people. I wish they would, be a little bit softer on each other. Maybe could they just do touch? Could they just play touch? But no, I do think football is way more interesting to watch and way more yeah, just interesting of a sport. I just think it's a like more interestingly designed game. Um, Something about it, it really feels like it relies. No, I don't know. There's an equal amount of like intelligence in probably every sport, except chess. That one's just pure intuition. Okay, next up, this is funny. Oh yeah, so this was so great. There was a really good video out by D'Angelo Wallace, a small YouTuber. I like to promote smaller YouTubers. Um, the Yeah, D'Angelo Wallace does good videos. This one was about an artist on TikTok who's the most followed artist on social media. And it's the guy who does those drawings of people on the subway, and then apparently an art critic, like a legitimate art critic, like went to this guy's first like real opening, and just was like critical of it. Like had support, but was overall fairly critical, and was basically making the point that like this guy is famous largely from social media, and it's interesting work that he's doing, but it's not like very interesting. And it was definitely supportive in the sense of like, I'm excited to see where this artist is going to go. It wasn't trying to like tear him down or anything, but it was critical. That's what art criticism is. And surprisingly, the TikTok star reacted really poorly. So D'Angelo Wallace sort of broke it all down, and I found it really interesting. And then what I did was I went to that artist's YouTube page, okay, and his name is Devon Rodriguez, I believe. Devon Rodriguez, and he's got a very prolific YouTube channel with 9.97 million subscribers, 355 videos, uploads every few days, very like redundant content, sketching people. It's just every thumbnail is like a sketch and then the person right next to it, and similar colorful text that says sketch and interview. Stranger in London, stranger in London, stranger in NYC, stranger in NYC, visits Bronx Art Studio. Okay. Whoa. Oh my God. I really thought one of these drawings was a drawing of D'Angelo Wallace for a second. Okay, it doesn't look like D'Angelo Wallace, but for a second I really thought one of these thumbnails was D'Angelo Wallace. Just because I had just looked at okay, they look completely different. Okay, I'm not gonna tell you which one. It's embarrassing. They look completely different. Okay, what I did want to share though is this guy Devon Rodriguez, almost 10 million subscribers, is so strange that he titles all the videos the same fucking thing. Painting a stranger's portrait realistically while hearing their life story. And then he just puts the name. Painting a stranger's portrait realistically while hearing their life story. Painting a stranger's portrait realistically while hearing their life story. Painting a stranger's portrait realistically while hearing their life story. Painting a stranger's portrait realistically while hearing their life story. Painting a stranger's portrait realistically while hearing, like that type of thing, basically. It's kind of nice to just say over and over again. It's kind of meditative. It's like Om Mani Padme Hum. Sketching. Oh, wait. Nope. Then it switches to sketching a stranger's portrait realistically while hearing their life story. Darren. Sketching a stranger's portrait realistically while hearing their life story. Ben. Sketching a stranger's portrait realistically while hearing their life story. Jack. Sketching a stranger's portrait realistically while hearing their life story. Henry. Yeah, dude, maybe that's partly why you only get 25 or 30,000 views on a 10 million subscriber channel. Fucking lame. I'm sorry, but yeah, the fact that this guy puts on his like social media, it's 3 billion views on his YouTube channel. The fact that he puts on his social media like most followed artist in the world or something, to me that's just very bizarre. I mean, I guess it's just interesting. Like, obviously, making TikToks, you're already doing an art when you're making TikToks. And when you're making TikToks of you making art, obviously that's art. But you do have to wonder, is the art, and this was the point the critic made, is the art you're making, or is the art the TikTok? Because all your TikTok followers, they're fans of your TikToks. Like, in some capacity, they're fans of your drawing, but that's like saying people are fans of, like, my words. I don't know. They're fans of my videos. Like, I don't know. It's probably a bad analogy. Okay. And lastly, on the agenda, before we get into the real meat and potatoes of today, I found this great video by Maggie May Fish. I've watched a few of her videos, but I definitely had not seen this. And it's called the Schneidecker Paradox, and it's about Rob Schneider versus Tim Heidecker. And it's this really interesting contrasting of Rob Schneider and Tim Heidecker, with Tim Heidecker's work being somewhat, specifically centered around, a lot of his comedy work being based around sending up these sort of like really out of touch boomer white men like Rob Schneider. So Maggie May did a great job of exploring the subject. She's very funny and entertaining. I really enjoyed it. Okay, so that's all I wanted to say. I guess I didn't really have anything else to say about that. Before we get into the meat and potatoes, let's do a verbal journal. What am I trying to say? Let's do a mailbag thing. Okay, so let's check the verbal journal mailbag, and you can write into verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com, verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com, and we do have a message. Simply Snaps, thank you so much for writing in. Wow, I'm so glad. I hope you're doing swell. Let's hear from Simply Snaps. Hello, Mr. Therapy. I haven't had the free time to tune into the podcast lately, but I had a therapy-related question and figured it'd be a great way to get back into listening. Thank you so much, Snaps. Listen whenever it's convenient for you. We will be here recording the pod. What's your opinion as a therapist on consuming media to help your client? I don't mean watching a full season of television or even a movie, but what if a client is really resonating with a song, poem, or other short form piece of media, and they're trying to figure out why it means so much to them? Great question. I'm going to keep reading because I think there's some elaboration. I personally feel like I'm building up to a large change in perspective on life, the direction I want to go, and I have a certain song that's making me feel things about it. I'd love to dig into lyrics with my therapist and analyze why they're making me feel these strong things, but it's an indie song and there's no way she's heard of it. So my ultimate question is, would it be weird to ask my therapist to listen to a 4-minute song in order to provide me with the treatment I think I need? It has the word shit in it. I think that's a big hang up. Oh, that's so interesting, Snaps. Long answer short is it's absolutely not weird at all in any way, shape, or form. I've absolutely listened to music. I'm trying to think if I've watched. I have watched like a whole documentary that a client like wanted me to watch, and it was like not my type of like. It was specifically like a from a very different perspective than I had, and like it was actually like politically on another side of the spectrum than where I am, and so I sort of found it interesting just in my interest in like reactionary politics, but it was also it did kind of show my client like I care about this stuff that is important to you and I want to be able to engage with you, and it made it so I could talk with my client about the issues that they cared about, and I didn't feel that I had to weigh in with my own opinion necessarily, and watching the documentary helped. I've read all kinds of things my clients have written artistically, poetry, writing, journaling. I've read stories before. If it's not something you made particularly, I don't see any difference. I think sharing a song you like, it takes up no time. I think, if a therapist, like, I don't think a therapist is able to make a problem of this. I think that would be absurd. So, I think swearing, I mean, people swear to me all the time. I will swear in response, like in the sense of like, if my client's like, oh, this really makes me feel like a piece of shit, and then they go on talking, and then they don't maybe explain what they meant, I might say like, you said earlier something makes you feel like a piece of shit. Like, what were you referring to? It's like, I definitely feel like I can swear in contexts like that. Usually I will almost never be the first one to swear. I think that's kind of a hard and fast rule, but if they swear, then I think sometimes it's useful not to like show you're cool or anything, but just to kind of resonate with the language used. So I definitely wouldn't worry about shit. Hopefully, you feel that your therapist could, handle that and it wouldn't scandalize them. I've had clients recommend artists to me. I've had artists I've still listened to because clients recommended them to me. A client, I found out about 100 gex from a client. They were like, I think you'd really like 100 gex, and I did. And that was a client who was very like confident bringing things up and like taking control almost, or just like saying, this is what I want, this is what I want you to do, this is what I want from there. So some people are more comfortable like, you know, bringing things up like this and being like, this is something that's important to me, like, will you do it? But in general, I would say always lean towards like asking your therapist if they can do something, asking them to do something, you know, you could ask them hypothetically, but yeah, always like ask and push and see where they are. I mean, if a therapist ever tried to bill you for like 15 minutes of listening to a song and thinking about it, like, that's absurd. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's even legal, if they're taking your insurance at least. But because they have contracts with insurance, you can't just bill for random things. But yeah, so long story short, I think it's absolutely totally normal, and it's part of, you know, not just being a rigid professional, being able to be somewhat flexible. It's very, very important. So yeah, I would say that's a totally, totally normal thing to do, especially a song. I mean, yeah, if you definitely don't want to expect your therapist to spend like 30 minutes or more on something like it like I have done that, and it's nice for them to do, but yeah, I wouldn't expect it. So I wouldn't expect a therapist to watch like a full episode of something. Maybe you could suggest it, but yeah, I wouldn't expect something like that. And if they are like reading, you know, if you did want them to like read like 30 pages of journaling, that probably you would want to pay them some amount for that, you know, just out of just like maintaining, because, you know, just maintaining the professional relationship. So yeah, but no, I mean, a song, like multiple songs, like, I mean, you know, something like that they could even like kind of do in the background. And also like, yeah, like they could just listen to it and then you just bring in the lyrics and talk about it. Yeah, that's a very normal thing to do. I've done that definitely with clients. So yeah, and I wouldn't worry about the word shit. Hopefully your therapist can fucking say shit. Okay, so thanks so much for writing in, Snaps. I hope you enjoyed that response that I gave. And for other folks, I hope that inspires you to write in if you'd like to. It's not a big deal if you don't want to. So next up in the theme of talking about artist biographies, which we've been talking about on this channel. One second. So I've gone through a few of them. Rauschenberg, Duchamp. I read a bunch of mini biographies. I read the Max Ernst biography. I read a bit of the Paul Klee one. I read a bit of the Kandinsky one. This past week, I started finally this Picasso one, and not the one I mentioned a few months ago, where it's written by what? I already forgot her name. No, that's not her name. Wait, what was her name? She's like a famous writer. Fuck. Whatever. It was Gertrude Stein, right? Gertrude Stein. Yeah. Yes. So that was a very interesting book. You can go back to listen to that one. I think it wasn't translated properly, so it like did a horrible injustice to her writing. But it was also like very unfocused and not really a normal biography in any sense of the word. And what I'm reading now about Picasso is also not a biography in any normal sense of the word, but it's so much better. And I'm not like a huge, it's not like Picasso is my favorite artist or anything, but he's like a very quintessential artist. It's very interesting to read about his life. What I'm reading now is by, what's this person's name? Hold on 1 second. We're going to do an old walk away and come back. Hold on. Okay, what is this? Francois? What's this person's name? Francois. Hold on. Okay, this one's it's from 1964, and it's by Francois Guillot and Carlton Lake. But I think Carlton Lake is like sort of helping put it together, but it's written from the perspective of Francois Guillot, and she spent time with Picasso. She lived with him and was like a companion with him for years, starting around 1943. They met in occupied France when Pablo Picasso was like about 60 and she was 20. And if you don't think that's a problematic age gap, you know, then nothing is. So, I mean, it's very strange to read about a 20-year-old becoming romantically and sort of erotically and artistically entangled with Picasso. He's clearly a very like bizarre guy in that sense. Like he seems kind of like underdeveloped in these very specific ways while being obviously a very sophisticated, talented, like, clever guy. There's something very immature to me about like the way he's speaking. And I say speaking because the crazy thing about this biography, and I guess it's a memoir, really, it's called Life with Picasso. It's full of direct quotes. Okay. And so she wrote this like years after. I don't know how many years, but certainly some number of years after. But it has direct quotes. And actually, before the book even starts, Carlton Lake, the person who helped with it, like the intro by him, the foreword, it includes, like, he basically defends that. So he says, throughout our work on it, I've been continuously impressed by Francois' demonstration of the extent to which that much abused term total recall can be literally true. Francois knows exactly what she said, what Pablo said, every step of the way for the 10 years and more that they spent together. The direct quotations from Picasso are exactly that. I retraced with her time and again the threads of many of these episodes, always from a different vantage point. Each time they checked out, even to the smallest touches of phrasing, style, figures of speech, although weeks or months may have intervened between our original discussion of a subject and our return to it. Along the way, various points which Picasso had taken up in some detail with me in Cannes, just after his 75th birthday, and which I wrote down in his presence at the time, came out in Francois' conversation with me in exactly the same form, the only difference being that this time it was Francois speaking for Pablo. Further checks and controls were made possible by my having access to Picasso's letters to her, her own notes and journals of the period, and many other pertinent documents. So that's a very interesting way to start a book. And like it is like a very, very granular story where you are reading, like, it's super well written, but it's like the degree of quotes here, like we're not talking like brief quotes, okay? Let me share a quote from the part I was just reading. During that winter and spring of 1944, I worked harder than ever at my painting. This is Francois talking. Sometimes when I went to the Rue des Grands Augustins, where Pablo lives, sorry for my pronunciation, I would take a drawing or a painting to show Pablo. He never gave me any direct criticism. His instruction was always in the form of general principles. For example, quote, we need one tool to do one thing, and we should limit ourselves to that one tool. In that way, the hand trains itself. It becomes supple and skillful, and that single tool brings with it a sense of measure that is reflected harmoniously in everything we do. And then it goes on. It's like twice as long as that. Like, quotes are incredibly long. And like here's another quote by him. The sculptor's a little mixed up too, you see. He's not sure of which way he wants to work. Of course, if you note all the different shapes, sizes, and colors of models he works from, you can understand his confusion. He doesn't know what he wants. No wonder his style is so ambiguous. It's like God's. God is really only another artist. He invented the giraffe, the elephant, and the cat. He has no real style. He just keeps on trying other things. The same with this sculptor. First, he works from nature. Then he tries abstraction. Finally, he winds up lying around caressing his models. And look here. He pointed to a model standing in front of a sculptor's construction that appeared to be made from a Rococo armchair, some of whose elements were based on the forms of a woman. Who could make sculpture with odds and ends of junk like that? He asked, grinning. He's not serious. Of course, he does take himself pretty seriously. The very fact that he grows a beard shows that. Then, too, he pointed in another etching to a fair-haired model lying in a sculptor's arms. Twining the garlands around their hair like that, he looked more closely. I imagine that's wild clematis in her hair, he said. But he's got ivy in his. Men are always so much more faithful than girls. Yeah, Pablo Picasso has a lot of things to say about how he thinks men are different from women or girls in his way of putting it. Super sexist guy, very obsessed with differences that he perceives between genders, and I think that's sort of the underdeveloped, kind of immature side that I see. Anyways, that's sort of the vibe I'm giving you. Like, it's this incredibly granular look at life with Picasso. All these details, even about like the German soldiers, like regularly coming to his apartment and like just snooping around, trying to find something they could, arrest him for, because Hitler viewed him as a degenerate artist. So yeah, lots of very interesting details. Anyways, another artist I poked into was, I had a client no-show for an appointment, so I just like hung out at the library and like read a book because I had a bunch of free time one of the days this past week, and I found a book about Mark Rothko, who I didn't know was born Marcus Rothkowitz in Russia around, I believe, like 1900 or like 1900. It was like right around 1900, maybe 1904. And he was born in like basically a famous like Jewish ghetto. Maybe not technically a ghetto. It's like a settlement where all the Jews in Russia were forced to live, or a huge number of them, and it was really rough. And he immigrated after his dad and two of his brothers. He went with his mom and I think his sister. His dad died shortly after when they got to the U.S. and I didn't read much further. It was super well written, and I'm going to go back to it. But it started at this famous anecdote, which I think where a biography starts is very important. It's good to start with like something from the future and then sort of go back to the past. But it started with that famous anecdote where he was asked to paint these murals for this like very, very swanky restaurant in New York for rich people. And then he spent a very long time doing it, I think months, maybe half a year or more. And then he was specifically the whole time trying to make it so the paintings would be like really suffocating and oppressive to the rich people to be in the room with them, which is badass and stuff or whatever. But then he like withdrew them at the last. I guess he didn't want to at the end submit them. And he seems like a very unhappy person. I was flipping through the book and accidentally saw the end. I think one of the chapters was about suicide, so I did not realize Mark Rothko killed himself, and that's very sad when anyone kills themselves. Sad and frustrating and all the feels. And yeah, reading about his life, just the small amount I did, he seems like he was very unhappy and upset, and even at his like huge MoMA opening where he was, I think, the only or the first artist of his generation to have a solo opening at MoMA. He was just like neurotic about it. Like he had a bad time. Like he was just like, I don't know. It really just makes me think like it's like mental health comes before everything. Like you can't rely on things externally to make your mental health good. You have to make your mental health good and use that as a tool in your life rather than using your life as a tool in your mental health. And I have an exciting next segment for us, which is the chess segment. It's a good day to be doing a chess segment. The chess world is alive right now. It's the last day of a big tournament in the Isle of Man, which is apparently a country. And don't get me started on these tiny countries. San Marino. I'm having San Marino flashbacks for longtime fans of the pod. Isle of Man, so they're having this tournament. Winner gets a spot in the candidates tournament where the winner of that plays in the world championship. So it's a big one. Currently fighting for the top spot is, I believe, Hikaru Nakamura, Andrei Sapenko, and Vidit. I forget his last name. What is it? Gudrathi? Vidit chess player. Yeah, Gudrathi. I think, Fabiano definitely has a spot in the candidates already, so I don't really know exactly how it shakes out with who gets what, but it'll be interesting to see who wins the tournament. My guy, Vladislav Artemiev, unfortunately can't win. He's maybe in like 15th or something. He's doing well, but he did win yesterday in a cool game, so that was always exciting. I love Vladislav Artemiev. And okay, screen time report. Exciting news. So last week I was talking about force resetting my phone, and I thought that since doing that, I wouldn't get the reminders about my weekly report, but I do. I got a reminder about my weekly report, and I've been using my phone a lot. Average daily screen time of 1 hour and 42 minutes. Wow. Messages, Gmail, some social media, some YouTube, monitoring the YouTube. That's a lot. That's a lot of screen time. I'm going to try to bring that down for you listeners. I'm going to really try to bring that down, and I hope you let me do that. So yeah. Well, anything else I should talk about right now? No, actually. No, the answer is no. I had a great time recording this. I hope you had a great time listening. Welcome to the end of the episode, and you will have a good rest of your day. You will. And so will I. Okay. Goodbye. This is a podcast or something.